We're going to be talking about how to learn to code. What is the best way? This is a question that I've gotten from quite a few developers or wannabe developers wanting to know, how can you learn how to code? What's the best way to do this? I've talked a little bit about this on this channel, so definitely watch some of the other videos that I have on the subject. But today I'm going to break down the possible paths that you could take to learn to code. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to give you the best way. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I learned how to code. If you guys are just joining me for the first time, I'm John from simpleprogrammer.com. On this channel, I teach you how to develop your soft skills as a software developer. What is that? Those are all the skills that you need to have to function as a person, to increase your career, really the valuable stuff beyond the technical side of things. And I really help you to learn how to really maximize your career as a software developer and really to live a better life, to be a more well-rounded person. If you haven't already, make sure you pick up a copy of the Complete Software Developer Career Guide. This is my big tome on the subject, and this has everything that you need to know to become a software developer. It is currently the top selling book on Amazon for software development, and there's a good reason for it. It's because it really is good. It really is comprehensive and complete. Check out the reviews, check out the audio version if you'd like that. That's a good thing to listen to while you're going for a nice long run. I think the audio version is like something like 24 hours of audio, so it's a pretty good deal. Also, click subscribe if you haven't. And if you like this video, if you like the topic, click the like. That always helps more people to see it, and it gives you some good karma. So, all right, let's talk about this. All right, so there are a few different paths for learning how to code. All right. And some of those paths are slow and some of them are fast. So I'm going to break down really what I think are the three biggest paths. And again, I talk about this a lot in the Complete Software Developer Career Guide. I give some more detailed information here, but I'm going to keep this video somewhat on the short end. All right. So the first path is going to college. The second path is being self-taught. And the third one is doing something that's sort of a hybrid approach, like a boot camp. All right, so let's talk about, first of all, the first path, all right, going to college. This used to be the way to become a software developer, right? You go, you get a degree, get a computer science degree, and from there, you can go out and get a job as a developer, hopefully. This is becoming less and less of a viable option for a couple of reasons. Okay, one of the major reasons is because of the time commitment involved. Okay, giving up 4 to 5 years of your life is a really high cost. Okay, it's not just a cost in terms of money, which is fairly expensive, but it is also a very high cost in terms of your time. Okay, if you can figure out a better way to learn to become a software developer, let's say you could do it in a year and get a job, then you could be making money for 3 years instead of paying money. All right. The other thing about this that I think is important to note is that it used to be that colleges and universities were sort of the gatekeepers of information. All right, if you wanted to learn something, you had to go to college. Why? Because you couldn't find the information anywhere else. But today, with the internet, with YouTube, with so many courses that you can buy on learning software development, free stuff and paid stuff, there is a enormous amount of information out there that you can learn on your own, and you don't really need to go to college in order to do that. Now, am I totally against college? No, I think there's some benefits to it. You can definitely get a really in-depth knowledge, especially in the fundamentals of things like architecture and how computers work, that I think that if you just practice and learn to code on your own, you might not get. But the benefits in my mind do not outweigh the detriments at this time. But like I said, if you wanted to become a software developer from going to college, what I would recommend though is specializing in something, going to a specialized college, right? So there's game development colleges like DigiPen, Nintendo has a game college, and there's a couple of colleges that specialize in that. There's cybersecurity type of colleges or programs. I would really recommend that you pick something specific to learn. And in fact, there's degree programs that are not just computer science, but are specific to a particular niche within the software development field. And I would recommend doing that. That could be a lot more valuable. And having that degree can be valuable. I mean, companies definitely look for it, but it's not required, right? If you had the choice of having a degree or not, of course, it would be better to have a degree. Now, for me, myself, what I did was I've gone sort of down multiple paths. Is I was a self-taught developer, okay, and I got a job. And then eventually I went back and got my degree just part-time through correspondence school just to get the degree, and I just breezed through the courses because I didn't even need to read the textbooks at that point, because I had already taught myself most of the knowledge there, and really even went in depth and taught myself algorithms and computer architecture and things like that because I was interested in it. But you don't have to do that, but it definitely is something that you could choose to do. And like I said, having a degree, it is valuable, but it's becoming less and less valuable, right? It's more and more valuable to actually have real world experience, to actually have built an app, to have maybe even a side business that you created where you've created some software and that people are using it. And then, when you apply for a job or you go to an interview, they can look at something that you've actually built, and that's going to be more valuable. The second one here is to be a completely self-taught software developer. I like the idea of being a self-taught software developer. If you're going to go down this path, what I would recommend that you do is that you just pick one stack. Okay, what do I mean by stack? I mean a set of technology that you're going to use, right? So a database system, okay, a programming language, maybe a front end system, right? There's a lot of stacks out there, that you can find. Pick something popular, probably, right, that you're going to find a lot of jobs for, and you're going to find a lot of information about, and work on developing a real world application using that stack, okay? Now, I know you're like, well, I don't even know how to code. Good, you're going to learn how to code by having an objective in mind of something you're trying to build, all right? One of the reasons why I learned how to code is because I wanted to actually create something, and so in order to create that, I had to learn how to code. In fact, a lot of guys I talk to that have come from different industries, they're like, oh, well, in my job, I was trying to create this spreadsheet to automate this thing, and I ended up learning some Visual Basic, and then I ended up creating a Python script to do this, and I basically learned how to code because I needed to, and then they became software developers. And those guys that learn that way, they really have a practical knowledge of software development, and so they're typically really good developers because they can actually build things, right? When I first started as a software developer, I didn't completely take this approach. I took some of this approach, but I was at this point where I felt like I could fix bugs and I could write some code and I understood some code, but I couldn't just write a full application, right? So I would advise, if you're going to go down this path, is that you focus on your goal being to write some application, even if it's just a simple application that will help you to actually have something that you're working towards in order to achieve that goal. But there's tons of resources out there, okay? You can find them, just don't get confused, okay? In fact, I've got something that might help you along that path. I've got a course called 10 Steps to Learn Anything Quickly. You can check it out in the link below. It's also on the simpleprogrammer.com website. And that's basically my process of breaking things down, making them simple, making it so there's just a simple 10 steps you can follow if you want to learn something quickly that's I found to be highly, highly effective. When I created a bunch of courses for Pluralsight, that's how I learned a programming language in a week, okay, and was able to teach a course on something that I just learned in a week and do a good job on it because I had honed down that skill set of learning things quickly, which is really important. If you're going to be a self-taught developer, you have to learn how to learn. Okay, that's really critical. The third path is a coding bootcamp. Now, I know there's a lot of bad press about coding bootcamps and all that, and I understand it, okay? And I haven't done a coding bootcamp myself, but believe me, I was just talking to a guy, all right, who is now working for a pretty big company. I don't know if I want to say the name, but they're a big company that is based out of Boise, Idaho, okay? And he's a developer there. He's only been a developer for 2 years. He's making some pretty good money at this company, and he started out by actually, from my book, okay, from here, he learned about coding boot camps. He joined a coding boot camp, and then he was able to get a job, and he was able to really rise up really fast in that. And so I have so many success stories of guys that have gone through coding boot camps. I'm not going to recommend a particular one here. I don't have any kind of sponsorship for it. I don't have any horse in the game. I've recommended some in the past. You can check some of those out. But the key here is it's not even really the quality level of the coding boot camp, although I would recommend that you vet them out carefully. It's about being the best. Okay. And when I say this, what I mean is that, let's say you have a coding bootcamp. Okay. If you have a coding bootcamp and it's a decent coding bootcamp, not everyone who graduates from that coding bootcamp is going to get a job. Okay. But I guarantee you that the top 10% of people in that class are going to get a job. So be in the top 10%. It's not a really difficult thing to do if you're willing to do the work. Okay. Now, the benefit of a coding bootcamp is that you have a focused application that you're working on, or focused time, right? It's like you're immersed in it. You're going 6 to 8 hours a day. You're doing homework. Like, you're really focusing on learning, and you can learn rapidly, and you can gain a much better understanding when you're focused on a thing. Focus is so important. So I think coding bootcamps are really good. Also, the cost is not bad. Okay. And a lot of people say, it's $10,000, $15,000, some of them $20,000. Okay. Yeah, sure. That might seem like a lot of money to you, but it's nothing. All right. And I'll tell you why. If you contrast that to college, it is so cheap. It is immensely cheap. And if you contrast that to the value that you get when you land a 6-figure job, which you can straight out of a coding bootcamp, okay? Believe me, I have so many success stories from guys that have done that. It's ridiculous to worry about that small of a cost to invest in yourself. So honestly, if I were doing it today, that's what I would do. I would do a combination. Maybe enroll in a bootcamp that's like a month away, spend the month prior to that learning as much as you can on your own, like go through their syllabus so you know what they're going to teach you, and learn that stuff before they teach it to you, okay, as much as possible, and then going through the coding bootcamp. That's what I would do, and I would seek to be the number one best student in the entire coding bootcamp, knowing that I'm going to be the guy that lands the 6-figure job if anyone does. All right, now, the part that you guys have been waiting for, where I talk about how I became a software developer. Okay. How did I teach myself how to code, and how did I do it rapidly? Well, it came down to, and you might have heard this story before, but it's worth listening to again, is that I wanted to create something. Okay. I was really big into playing these MUDs, these multi-user dungeons, or think of it as, I was going to say EverQuest, but that probably predates most of you. So think of it as World of Warcraft. That is just a text interface. All right. I was really hooked on these. I thought they were awesome. I wanted to create games, and this was something that I enjoyed. So I downloaded the source code for one of the MUDs at the time, and I started pouring through it, and I started making changes to it, and I wanted to create my own world and my own version of this MUD. And so I literally just looked at the code, okay, and made modifications and kind of figured out how it worked on my own. Eventually, I got some books, and I used that to augment my learning, but my primary way of learning was building this game, building this app, or building on it, this existing one, right? And that really taught me. And then from there on, one of the other things that I did that really helped me to really increase my skills was I was playing this card game called Magic the Gathering that still exists today, amazingly. And I was really like this game, but I wanted to create a life counter so that, in the game you keep track of your life. And I wanted to create a life counter for this new device I just got, this Palm Pilot. All right. So I figured out how to do it. I went and, I planned out what I wanted to create. It was a fairly simple application that could, you could increment your life and keep track of your opponent's life. All right. And I added some features like virtual tokens and things like that. But I basically, started with the simple app idea, and I went and I researched. I figured out, okay, how can I, go into the Palm Pilot developer documentation, and how can I create just a simple project, just an application that just pops up on the screen that I could just load on, that does nothing, just displays a button. Okay. And that was my first step. All right. And that was not hard. It was easy. And then I figured out, okay, well, how can I make this button work so when I click the button that it does something, just pops up something on the screen that says you click the button. And I did that. And then I said, okay, now how can I display like some life total on there? Okay. And then I figured that out. And then I figured out, okay, how can I make it so when I click this button, the life goes up? And when I click this button, the life goes down, and so forth and so on, right? And that was the best way to learn, because I was actually doing something, and I had a goal in mind, and it wasn't just reading books. It wasn't just watching tutorials. It was actually creating something. And eventually I created the app. Okay. It took some time. I had to learn, but I learned C and got a better knowledge of C++ and developing for Palm Pilot. Okay. Not a useful skill today, but, but it taught me how to code. And then I actually put it on the internet, and then I had to take payment. This was before you had all the ways of simple ways of taking payment online. And I had to actually write a Perl script to take PayPal payments and to create an unlock code and all that stuff. And I figured it all out, and that's really how I learned to code. So Anyway, that's my story, and that's how you can learn how to code quickly. I found that to be the fastest way, and you can kind of combine the things that I've talked about in this video, right? So if I were you, if I were starting out today, like I said, I would enroll in a coding bootcamp, and I would learn on my own as well. All right, guys, that is it. Make sure you pick up a copy of the Complete Software Developer Career Guide. Click the subscribe button to join the channel and to get more tips like this. And then if you want to get that 10 Steps to Learn Anything Quickly course, I highly recommend it. It will help you to accelerate your learning. There's a link down below.